Security and the police on the streets of Cairo, as you can see, these are tear gas canisters made in the USA, and this, in my opinion, epitomizes the whole story of our part of the world, the Middle East and North Africa, the Arab world. Because so long as Washington preferred dictatorships to run the situation in this part of the world, simply because they are scaring them off, saying that it's either us, dictators, or the Islamists, the terrorists. Now, what we have seen, starting with Tunisia, a revolution that's an Allahu Akbar free revolution. And
in other words, not an Islamist revolution.
No, what we've seen is ordinary people, generation Facebook, people with something to say on the streets. The government telling us that, speak up, this is a free country, you can express your opinion, and the rest of it, and look what they're doing.
But is this really, can you really compare Tunisia and Egypt? This is, of course, the most populous country in the Arab world, 87 million, and there are defiant protests, but it's only in the thousands, the tens of thousands.
In certain areas, yes, and in others, no. Egypt is a huge country with, and the regime has a much smarter way of dealing with things and a much more experience. I'm really surprised that they have opted for this tactic now. They are claiming this. It started from day one on Tuesday, about 5 p.m. or so, claiming that the Muslim Brothers are trying to hijack this. I'm yet to see. I haven't seen any slogan. I haven't seen. They have been provoking people. They have been attacking, singling out journalists. Basically, they want no word to be out, basically.
But where will this go? Because this, of course, is a protest without leaders. I've heard many of the young protesters, what they call the Facebook generation, saying that Mohammed al-Baradei, who came from Vienna last night, doesn't represent them.
It's not a matter of personalities, in my opinion. You have your own people have something to express. It's been coming for years and years. And the United States know this very well. The whole of the West know this very well. But they always prefer this because they know that it's always easy to pick up the phone and tell a certain ruler around the Arab world what's expected from them. Now, do you want to start afresh and have a new approach to the Middle East or not? I think this is the question facing the West now.
One other difference with Tunisia is that the army didn't move against the protesters, and it actually made it possible for the President Ben Ali to leave. So far here, the army is standing behind President Mubarak. It's always been one of his key allies.
It's fair to start thinking about that famous tipping point at which Washington will decide, perhaps with some coordination with an army man, what's next. What I can see now is a regime that's a little bit confused, that's afraid. When you shut down internet, mobile phones, landlines, and what have you, when you use these tactics you're actually provoking the crowd.
What has been the word so far? President Mubarak hasn't spoken yet. There's been a warning from the authorities that they would respond with force. They promised a government reshuffle. What can they do to calm the streets? And we're seeing the streets unfolding beneath us, the tear gas wafting up here, the loud cries of protesters and the sound of tear gas canisters and rubber bullets being fired.
A cabinet reshuffle will not do it. Everybody knows that. It's about the regime. Poor Dr. Ahmed Nazif, the Prime Minister, he himself knows that, he has no real power. He doesn't really call the shots. Everybody knows in the country, in Washington, in the West, who calls the shots. Everybody knows what happened in the last parliamentary elections. Everybody knows how deep corruption has hit Egypt from within. Everybody knows what the problem is. Now we need somebody to tell us where to go from here.
Mr. Fuda, Egyptian journalist, thank you very much for joining us here. It's just the middle of what the protesters called a day of rage. There have been days of rage since Tuesday. These are the largest crowds who've ever gathered on the streets, not just here in Cairo, but in many cities right across Egypt. But also we haven't seen this kind of force being used. Tear gas, rubber bullets in the main, but there have also been reports of live ammunition and attacks on journalists as well. We'll be keeping an eye on all the developments here, but for now, back to you in London.
Lise, thanks for joining us from Cairo. Lise and the team will be right across.